Like to call to order agenda of the Belton City Council regular meeting March 10th, 2020. At this time, we're going to call the regular meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance, please, by Councilman Clark. Might we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Savage.
Here.
Councilmember Lathrop.
Here.
Councilmember Trutzel.
Here.
Councilmember Van Winkle.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Finn.
Here.
Councilmember Davidson. Here. Councilmember Peak.
Here.
All right. Consent agenda. One motion, non-debatable, to approve the recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for an item be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Yes, ma'am. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Included in the consent agenda was a resolution appointing Ross Nigro as the new Belton Municipal Judge. As the council will recall, Judge Curry is retiring in July. So we went through a competitive process to look at a new judge, and we interviewed Ross Nigro. And Ross, if you don't mind coming to the podium and just doing a brief introduction and put a face to the name to let people know who you are, and just to let all of you know he'll be starting May 1st.
Appreciate the opportunity to be the judge of Belton. I hope you approve me. I'm looking forward to this. I think it's a great city.
I learned how to turn on a microphone. You think being a judge for 4 years, I already learned how to do that, but wasn't sure how the system worked. But I'm looking forward to serving this city. I think you guys have improved. It's been a fantastic development over the years. I grew up in this Kansas City metropolitan area my whole life, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to serve you in this community.
Perfect. Thank you so
sir.
much.
Look forward to not seeing you in court.
Same here.
Yes, sir. Okay, we have personal appearances. We've got Dr. Underwood, Belton School District, going to come up. Dr. Underwood is going to talk about the no tax increase bond for Belton School District 124.
Thank you guys for allowing me some time. We've got some information. Some of you guys know Miss Stocking. She's going to help me out here, so I need all the help I can get. Nonetheless, real quick, I want to share some information about, we got a no tax increase bond issue for the school district. So we just finished our high school 2019. It took us about 20 years to get that done, but we finally got it done. And so the question is, what next? So what next is we need to take care of some of our aging facilities. And so this bond is $25 million. It does not increase our levy. It does extend the life of the debt, is how we pay for that. So money's not for free, as we all know that. But nonetheless, we're going to look at safety and security, our entrances to our buildings throughout the district. We have some facilities that were built back in the 50s and 20s and 70s and 80s, and there was not a whole lot of concern about school shooters and other instances of violence in schools at that time. So we want to address that concern and put a more safe and secure entrance in our facilities to try to slow or prevent people that are coming for inappropriate actions. The other piece of this is we need to take care of some rooftops. We need to take care of some parking lots as well throughout the district. Actually, this month we are celebrating the 60th birthday to Cambridge Elementary. If any of you guys have been around or know where that's at. And if you had a home, you can't keep the same roof on your house forever. So we've got to take care of some of those aging facilities. Mill Creek turned 20 back in January. So time flies with some of the facilities that we have. We need to maintain, and in some instances, we need to repair and or tear off and replace. So that's what we're looking to do. We feel like as far as parking lots, we've got a lot of large vehicles, buses that work on those quite a bit significantly, so we need to do some repairs and some replacement there as well throughout our parking lots. So the ballot language, if you guys see that, it's rather lengthy. Of course, that has to be approved through the Attorney General. Talks about some leasing on there. Just to clarify that, leasing is not, we're not leasing property, we're not leasing buses. That's how we, in essence, through school districts in the state of Missouri, we borrow money is through leasing. We can't borrow money like you or I would for a home. And so part of that finished our high school, and we're actually going to replace the middle school roof with some borrowed money, some lease money, and we're going to pay that back through the bond, which is a cheaper interest rate for us. And then also Hillcrest Elementary School, we're going to replace that roof. Just to give you an idea of those costs, so we've got a low bid on our middle school, which is the old high school, $1.6 million to replace that roof, and then Hillcrest is $655,000 to replace the roof on just those two buildings in the district. So we will touch every roof and either, once again, bring them up to what we think is a longer life and or replacement of all the roofs throughout the district. So in essence, we'll be paying for part of that lease money via this bond. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I do have an endorsement sheet. If anybody wants to sign that, they can and pass it on. And so we're building quite a list, trying to get that out and share information in regards to this, and try to answer any questions that I can.
Councilman Savage.
You mentioned about 2.2 on expenses. Are you intending to use this whole 25 million? And if so, how does that calibrate out?
So on the 25 million, we feel like it's going to be about 5 million for the safe and secure entrances in regards to the project. We feel like there's about another 7.5 million in roofs that we're going to expend part of the money on as well. So that puts us about 12.5. We've got 10 million in the lease money that will do 2 other roofs as well as it finish the high school. And so actually it's like 9.9. Can't go over 10 million on the lease. That puts you in a whole other situation. So we're right at 10 million on that, and then the other 2.5 million we're going to spend on the parking lots. I don't have an exact estimate on the parking lots because that's honestly the third priority. The secure entrances is our number 1. Our roofs are number 2, and the parking lots are number 3. And so the 2.5 million or so that we feel like we're going to have left, we can address most of the needs. We may not have brand new parking lots throughout, but we're going to seal and work on what we have and fill up chug holes, so to speak, you might, throughout. So we feel like we're going to be able to put those in pretty good shape as well. So we're going to use all 25 million of this bond for that. So then in essence, we feel like we're going to be in pretty good shape in regards to district facilities and wait at least another 5 years after that. Anything else that we can see coming down the pike, barring any kind of tornadoes or other significant issues that might occur. And we'll knock on wood that doesn't happen.
Councilman Finn.
Dr. Underwood, what's the life expectancy on these new roofs we're putting on? Is there better materials that we're using now that's going to give longer life?
You know, flat roofs are tough, and you'll see that through most educational facilities. And typically, the minimum we'll do for a warranty is 10 years on a warranty, but we have seen a lot longer life than that. The goal and expectation is at least 20 that we'll get out of them. But I think part of the maintenance piece is going to extend the life further. Some of them that we have allowed to, in my opinion, go too long, and then membranes are damaged that you've got to tear them off and you've got to replace. You know, the Walnut building itself is pushing 100 years old, and we've had to replace part of the roof there. But you tear into it, and it's amazing how many layers upon layers are there, and the tar that's on top of it. I got to be pressing. We're lucky if some of you guys might have been alive last time some of those roofs were, some of the stuff that we uncover underneath those. So they got multiple layers. Probably don't want to tell the building code inspector that, but we're going to tear them off. We're going to make them right to put them in better shape. So to answer your question, I think we're going to have at least 20 years out of them or better.
So you said you're going to do a complete tear off on those then?
On the ones that are older that are in disrepair, middle school would be one, Yoakum would be another one, Walnut will be another one that will do that. Some of the maintenance ones will be like Kentucky Trail. You know, it was just built in 2007. We've still got some life in that and can maintain it and do some work on it, as well as Mill Creek is another one. We've got some life there as well. And we've replaced some of the roofing projects just through the last 10 years. We've had some areas that we've just had to address and work on. So they're not all, you know, the original parts of them. But, you know, for instance, the middle school, it was built in about 4 different phases. And so the lives of those roofs are all different.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
Being the one that was in the old high school, I can remember in wrestling, Councilman Finn, Councilman Clark, I can remember you probably in baseball when it was raining on you in one gym or the other. The infrastructure's kind of old over in there. And we're
guess-
kind of going through the same kind of pain.
Unfortunately, I think we saw some videos last year of the middle school with people getting showers, so.
Oh, golly, yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Yeah, those were not pleasant. We had
Right.
a lot of ice and snow and some
Pretty
major
bad. I
leaks.
see it on Facebook too.
Yeah,
but-
and I'll tell you, we spent about $60,000 just in repairs last year on that single roof. We actually looked at bids last year. Costs were higher. Actually, our low bid last year was 2.2. We chose to repair for 60,000, and I got a bid for 1.6 this year. So we saved some money by waiting, but we did have to go in and do a lot of work and put some man hours into it.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Did we give them their petition? Oh, boy, you trust him? Okay, there we go.
Thank you guys for the time. Do appreciate it, and just remind everybody April 7th if you'll come out and vote. Thank you.
All right, next, ordinances. A motion approving the final reading of bill number 2020-06 as amended.
An ordinance amending sections 42-36, rates inside the city, 42-38, water rates for approved water districts or local governments, 42-39, rates for water consumed outside city, 42-296, sewer system user rates of the Unified Development Code of the City of Belton, Missouri.
City manager?
This is a motion that's in front of you tonight, Mayor. Do you want to have a first and a second and then open it up for discussion?
Let's seek a motion first and then have a regular discussion in a work session. Okay, I'd entertain a motion. Present. Second? Sure. Okay, motion and a second. Now discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, this evening, I've got Greg Rokos and Don Tyler that are here. We did want to provide, I know this has been a topic of discussion through the city of Belton, and we did want to just clarify it and do one final overview of information regarding the water rates, the need for them, and the overview of what that looks like. And then we also have some additional information that Sheila will also be sharing this evening. So, Greg, if you want to go ahead.
Good evening. I'm doing a kind of follow-up to Don's presentation from back in December. It's it's much more condensed and much more focused on the issue I want to talk about tonight. No, it's not going. There we go. So the first thing I want to talk about is just looking at the pipes I want to discuss. And really what we're talking about is the pipes that are shown in red. Those are the cast iron pipes, and there's also right beneath it in the heading is kind of like a purple pinkish color. Those are the ones that are the asbestos cement pipes. These are the two main areas of water mains that we're really talking about tonight, that really need to be upgraded and replaced. When we look at it, these are the pipes we're talking about. Now, if you look at the picture that's in the upper right-hand corner, that actually is a cast iron pipe that used to be round, that's now in an oval shape. It's actually something so hard, but actually the ground and time is making it go to oval shape. And eventually, because of that shape on the edges, it'll crack, and you'll see in the lower left-hand corner, the pipe will break in that manner. And there's another picture. Eventually, the pipe will look like that in the lower right-hand corner. The pipe will crack longitudinally across it. These pipes are basically, they can last approximately 50 to 75 years. At this time, the pipes in town are between 60 and 80 years old. So they've reached the end of life, or they're actually beyond the end of life. And when they get to the end of life, they start breaking, and you have lots of breaks. And that's the thing that we're starting to see, and have been seeing for several years, is having pipes that are breaking, lots of water lines that are breaking. The other thing that you'll see in the picture that was before in the oval pipe, you see the buildup of minerals. Over time, the reaction between the water, the minerals in the water, and the cast iron pipe causes a buildup of minerals and debris to start building up in the water lines. We had a pipe that we showed a picture of not too long ago that everybody saw. It's a 4-inch water main that we just cut out about 2 weeks ago, and there's only 1.5 inches left. The water flow was going through the middle of the pipe. Now that pipe was taken out, but on either end of that pipe, it still remains 1.5 inches opening, because that cast iron continued. So even though in front of those few homes there's a brand new pipe, the water that leads to it still is going through that cast iron pipe that only has an 1.5 inch opening. So as the seasons change and the moisture changes, so when it gets warm and it gets cold and it gets wet, these pipes, the amount of weight that sits on them changes and they tend to break. And that's why you see a lot of breaks in the spring and fall. What these issues are going to cause for us is when the water lines break, and they break more frequently, it takes us longer to repair them. So that time that the power and the water is off to your home, there's loss of fire protection because the water that's going to your home is the same water that's going to the fire hydrants. There's no water to your home, so there's no way to flush a toilet, there's no way to get a drink, no way to take a shower. Right now, we have problems with people calling up and talking about the water that's tan or brown that's coming to their homes. That's because the water that goes through that cast iron pipe is drawing those minerals and drawing that into their homes. And then after a fire hydrant's opened, after there's a fire in the area, we get calls that there's debris in the water that's coming to their homes. The only way we can solve that is by actually just running the water and flushing out the water lines. Those are the types of things up there that the problems when we have broken water lines causes. There we go. And so just to kind of illustrate that the cast iron pipes and the asbestos cement pipes are a problem, is if you look where the water main breaks are at, they're at right the same place as where all these cast iron pipes are at, the same place that the asbestos cement pipes are at. Where these pipes are breaking, it's because they're at the end of their life. And so when you look, I want to click one more time. So when you look at this final picture that I have for you, it shows the listing of the different types of pipe, the PVC, ductile iron, cast iron, asbestos, and you can see the amount that needs to be replaced. And it comes to about $29 million, about that $30 million mark of water lines that need to be replaced. And that's in today's dollars. That all these pipes are at the end of their service life and are needing repair. Not replacement, actually. And so you want to click the next one. And that's basically what I wanted to show you tonight, is where the pipes are at and what the cost is. I'm happy to answer any questions. Turn over to Sheila for the next.
Well, we had questions over here. Over here, questions so far? Councilman Savage.
Probably indirect, but are we not, I know we're talking about the ductile iron, cast iron's what you're talking about in there,
Cast
right?
iron.
But aren't we still working on the asbestos for possible options to help pay for that?
Yes, I was just getting ready to talk about that, so great lead-in, thank you, Commissioner, or
Go
Councilman
for it.
Savage. So, the asbestos cement, one of the things that we have been talking to is the federal government. Actually, I've had a lot of questions asked to me as to why aren't we looking at grants? We are looking at grants where they're applicable. The concern that we have, though, is that most of the opportunities for grant dollars are centered around rural areas and small communities that have populations of 10,000 or less. So therefore, it takes Belton out of that scenario. But one of the areas that we are eligible for is through the federal government, through the Clean Water Act, and there are funds available to be able to look at to replace the asbestos cement lines that are all throughout Cimarron trails. And so we have actually already started the process on that. The application, we're waiting to determine how much money is coming through the EPA for that project for our region. And then the grant applications will open in September. And so we've already been pulling all that data together to try to apply for that. So that's why it's so important. And you'll see you've actually got the pay-as-you-go sheet that you've got there. You actually also have it up here for you to take a look at that has the 2 yellow blocks around it. And the reason why you see the block around fiscal year 21 is because that's the only thing we're looking at right now. Because the additional funding that we're hoping to be able to get could have an impact on these future years. So the only thing that we're looking at for this year is the 10%. And we've stated all along that we were just trying to be transparent to show what the total need is and that over a course of time, this is what it could look like. But to start off, we would be looking at the 10% for this year, and that would just be for the infrastructure. The reason why that you see this evening under ordinances, the motion approving the final reading as amended, is because we originally speculated and estimated that Kansas City Water would have an increase of 4%. In all actuality, it came back at just 2%. So in addition to the infrastructure repairs that we were looking at of the 10%, it would have originally been 14, now it's reduced to 12%, and that's what is related in this actual ordinance that you have in front of you. Sheila, do you want to talk about the other information that you've put together on that spreadsheet?
Quite done.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hold on just a minute? I apologize.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up the fact, because again, I've been trying to make a point that we're looking at this year. You know, I'm not sold on the years to come, because I think there might be some other options. I don't think we ever need to close that door, which you brought that up. I also want to say, since it was mentioned that we got a small amount of water running, you're going to be out of water. I don't like to use that tactic at all. We're going to try to repair these things as quickly as we can. It says, so my question would be, what's the timing on these repairs when we have a break? Give me some idea, because you did use that as a tactic of explanation. We need to go ahead and follow that out. How long is it going to take to repair a break? You got
I
to,
mean to use as a tactic, I was just saying.
it felt that way, that's all.
I'm sorry. It's normally, we can repair a line somewhere between 4 hours and 8 hours, depending the
Okay.
size of the line, location, and how difficult it is. If there's several breaks at one time, we can only fix one break at a time, and so
Sure.
you're talking about, it could take a day or two to get to it.
Okay, and thank you, and that's what I wanted to clear, because, yes, you may be out of water, you may be out of a toilet or a shower, but we're gonna work everything we can to get it back operating quickly.
Absolutely,
That's
and
the
we do
point.
work 24 hours a day. I mean,
Yeah.
the crew can't work 20, but they can come back in at night and work, and then they come back to work the next day.
Thank you.
Another question, Councilman Trutzel.
People ask about repairing these lines. Most of these lines come in as emergency repairs. Alexa, do you have any idea how much money we spend on emergency repairs of water lines?
Well, the emergency repairs that we do in-house, and so they're a small patch. It's not like we're going and replacing the full line.
What I'm talking about is how much money we have spent on all these different breaks that we've had, maybe in the past year. I don't know if you have
Right,
that.
so we average about 35 breaks a year. And so, but the cost to repair those is minimal, because you're spending 8 to 10 hours in one day to just do that patch repair. You're not doing a whole line. And so the cost for those probably runs about $5,000 to $6,000 per patch. We did have a water line about a year ago where it was a pretty extensive break at a main. We were losing the neighborhood of, I think Don told me today, it was 3 to 5 feet of water out of the tower every 15 minutes. I mean, had they not found it and worked on it so quickly to at least get the water turned off, but a water repair that's that big, we were unable to do, and that repair was about $85,000.
And there's only a X amount of dollars we can do with this, because there is a in the bucket kind of thing where we can continue to pay for these things. So my point is that, you know, we can't continue to magically come up with money to repair these things, because there is an amount of money that is available to do those things. I do have one more question about the water repair. When we do these repair lines, you have the water run through a small one into a large one, back into a small one again. Doesn't that require a lot of additional pressure on those pipes that wasn't replaced, or I'm wrong on that?
The most pressure that you're going to have problems with is when you turn the valves on and off, because if you turn the valve very quickly, it puts as the water rushes through, it causes what's called a hammerhead, and it'll hit that spot, and it will cause another break. So they have to be very careful when they go out there to do water line. When they shut it off, they turn the valves very slowly, and when they open them up, they turn them very slowly back, so that it doesn't cause a break just right next to wherever they just made that repair.
Thank you.
Councilman Lathrop.
Well, I have some problems on this that I would like that we get answered before we vote on this thing. And that's gonna take the attorney a couple of weeks or a week to get those answers, and it's subject of additional funds from other sources. And I'd like to at least give him a week to get those answers.
Okay.
Did you want to hear the additional information that we have here?
Well, yeah, I was waiting for anybody to give a motion, so yes, go ahead.
Well, you've already have the motion, you would be.
Oh, I was thinking his motion. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to clarify that if you look at the slide that is showing on the screen, the fiscal year 2021 budget increase, part of the budget to repair infrastructure is 10%. And you can see based on your usage what the total amount would be per month for a family that uses 1,500 gallons of water or less. It's $1.38 a month. Up to 6,000 gallons of water each month, which would be $6.01. And because we kind of had a tentative plan of what it might take to generate $1.36 million of revenues in order to start replacing these water lines, I went ahead and you can see the 5-year total that combines the fiscal year 2021 and tentative fiscal year 2022 to 25 increases. And that 5-year total shows that at the end of 5 years, a person that has a minimum bill would pay an additional $4.79 per month. There has been a lot of questions about what the cost would be if we borrowed the money and did a debt issue instead of doing the pay-as-you-go that staff recommended. And you can see that last column, it would, instead of a minimum bill user having an increase of $4.79 a month, they would have an increase of $20.24 a month. And that would be to repay that debt service. And the reason for that is the bonds at today's rates, and this could change if rates went up or down, but at today's rates, which are very low, it would add $12.6 million to the $30 million of project costs that we would have. And so citizens would have to pay for the principal and interest and also the bond issuance costs in their rates. And so that was the reasoning that staff recommended back in December and in the budget to consider the pay-as-you-go instead of borrowing money.
Questions? Go ahead.
In addition to that, you also have another sheet here at the dais called Types of Borrowing for Government. There's been, I've talked with many of you and community as well, and there seems to be some confusion as to when we talk about the type of bonds and how they can be applied and how they can be used. And so we wanted to put an education page together for you so that you could look at this and understand it. And this is just something that's a good source of information here and going forward for you to have that might be helpful. But I do want to reiterate strongly as to why what Sheila said, and I want to make sure everyone picked up on it, is that if we were to take a look at borrowing the funds to be able to do this work, the amount of interest based upon today's rates, when it was calculated end of last week, would be a little over $12 million of interest that would have to be paid back. So doing a pay-as-you-go, you're strictly paying for the work and not paying for that. So that's why we brought the scenario that we did.
What about the other bonds there? You said revenue, COPs. Any explanation on any of those?
Oh, it's all right there, Mayor.
Okay. Well, can the people see all that, then they got that?
Yeah, they had it up on the screen a second
Okay.
ago. We can put it back.
Does anybody have any questions? Councilman Savage?
Of course. What is the estimated cost with the, for the asbestos portion of this project?
Approximately $3 million.
It
3
was-
mil?
Can you go back to that, please, Benjamin, and find that on the sheet? Yeah, it's on that page that showed the estimated cost for the pipe. I just don't have that in front of me right now.
Yeah, they can't see it.
There you go. The
Oh, I
asbestos
missed it.
cement's, almost 3.8. And it's 3.5 miles.
And what is the, I've been asked and I did not do the math, so what is the 10% gonna generate in the first, well, it'd be, well, for the first year, let's just go it that way.
About $520,000.
And then we're still gonna have the 400,000 that we've been, allowing for
No.
replacement?
No,
Or is that
that-
being pulled?
That actually has been coming from reserves, and so that money has been, we weren't generating that in rates, we were using that out of reserves.
Really?
Yes.
We've been pulling reserves since 2012?
Yes.
How come I didn't know that? I'm asking myself, not you.
Okay.
Wow, thank you. I gotta think about this a while.
Going on? Where
Yeah,
we
yeah,
at?
we're there. Sheila, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
The last thing I would like to show up on the screen are so what we just were looking at was just the infrastructure costs. Now I'd like to show what the rates would be with tonight's rate ordinance. That includes the 10% increase for infrastructure, and then also the pass-through from Kansas City, Missouri of 2%, and the pass-through from Little Blue Valley Sewer District at 12.5%. So you can see the rate increase will not apply to the debt service charge. It only applies to the actual cost of water. And so you end up, if you have a minimum bill, your overall minimum bill will increase 7.32% or $3.20 a month. Somebody that would use 6,000 gallons of water a month would end up with a $16.76 increase per month, and that equals 10.88%. And then you have everything in between. And I just wanted to point that out. I think there was a lot of confusion. It is not being applied to the debt service charge. It's only being applied to the actual cost of water and wastewater usage.
What all is involved in the water bill?
The water bill includes, if you're a residential customer inside city limits, you would be paying for water, you would be paying for water debt service, you would be paying for wastewater debt service, and trash.
Because I've had constituents say that their electric bill, their gas bill, and then they have a $240 water bill. What would your answer be to that?
They're paying for water, wastewater, and trash service.
Questions or comments? Councilwoman Davidson, then Councilman Clark.
I'll let him go first.
Okay.
Of course, I told you, Mayor, that I had some prepared statements, and first of all, I want to, Mayor, fellow council, citizens, first of all, I want to thank anybody and everybody that has reached out through email, calls, and just put their input into this, because I think it's important as a city that we listen to everybody and take everybody's voice into consideration. We were voted into this position by our citizens, and we ran for this. So this is not something that someone made us do. We ran for this position, and here we are making the tough choices. Everybody wants this to go to a vote. Not everything can go to a vote. We are voted on to do this, so it's been 18 years since I've looked at a budget. So budgets are not easy to look at the first time you do it, so 18 years later, here I am looking at it again. I think one of our problems I have, we have the highest rates in the area of water. Citizens are complaining or upset, and I understand how they feel, and they don't feel like we're doing anything to change that. The only thing we're trying to do is keep raising the rates. Unfortunately, we look up here and we have a 5-year rate structure. That's basically what we're doing. We're raising our rates up next 5 years. I'm going to come out on a limb, and I said, hey, we need to do the infrastructure improvements. I was here 20 years ago. We had the same conversations 20 years ago that we're having today, and for some reason, the city over the last 20 years has kicked this down the curb. The old town of Belton, and it looks like, I'm going to say Ward 2 over there off Manor and Park and all those places, looks like they have the old pipes, the base. I think the base should be picked up by the federal government just because they're the ones that built that community, and I think they should help us repair that. So, unfortunately, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, you made me look at the budget a lot closer. So, looking at the budget items over the last couple weeks, we talked about the overhead allocation. We were given a sheet by the staff that says in 2014, the city stopped adding to the overhead allocation, and now we only take $618,000 of wastewater, $815,000 of the water fund. As I look at the budget, and I went back all the way to 2006 because they're online, and went forward, one of the things I noticed that in 2014, there was a new line item that was created called Public Works Billing. And in 2014, we took out $345,000 from wastewater, $280,000 from the water funds, for a total of $625,000. In our proposed budget, we were taking $585,000 from the wastewater, $408,000 from the water fund, for a total of $993,000. But the budget item in the general fund shows that it's actually 1.168. So I couldn't find where that extra $170,000 was coming from. But based on that, it looks like we had been better off allowing the water and sewer to keep paying the regular oversight funds into the general fund, because basically we're taking $568,000 out more now by having a public works billing than we would have if we just kept funding the general fund with the oversight allocation. So when you add up the general fund obligation, the water and sewer funds of $1.433 million, then add up the $993,000, we are taking $2.426 million out of the water and sewer funds for overhead allocation, in my mind, going into the general fund. You want to know something funny? In 2020, it's down $220,000 in the next year's budget than what we took out this year. $220,000. So I sit here as a citizen and as a council member going, you know, I worry about people with low incomes. I have enough money, I can afford another $17 a month, I can afford another $50 a month. But we sat here and debated a rental inspection program, and I was told that we had people in our community that couldn't afford to move because they didn't have the money. We have people in our community, the rental inspection program is going to give them protections, because if they have leaky faucets and leaky stuff, it's going to save them money. Well, I just don't understand how we're going to come up and charge them more. I mean, we had a citizen that said it's going to be 40%, and I think the numbers that were given us today is going to be a lot less than that over the next 5 years. But again, if it's 20%, 40%, until it actually happens over the next 5 years, we really don't know. We 9 members of this council are the only ones who ran to have this position, from the mayor, each one of us on the city council, and was voted in to be the voice of the citizens. We are the only ones who can make change in our budget and how our budget is constructed. Just because it's in the budget doesn't mean we can't change how the budget is constructed. We are the ones that oversee that. Yes, we need the professionals that we are hired to help us with that, but I think we got to be the ones that help take the pressure off the citizens. We already have the highest taxes. We have the highest levy in Cass County, if you don't want to include East Lynn, that probably has 600 people. Well, now we have the highest water and sewer rates also. So we can't always have the highest. I mean, we got to have something that's going to give our citizens something better with that highest. We can't always just be the highest. It's not always great to be the highest. I know we have to do the infrastructure. I know the water increase will pass. I ran on lowering water rates. I ran on lowering sewer rates. My bill when my son's at home in the summertime, unfortunately for me, is at college, so I don't have to pay $250 a month. I'm paying $140, and I think I just got a big raise. So, but we have citizens out there that are low income, that have families of 4 or 5, and they're getting water bills of $175 to $250 a month. And I think it's something that we as a council need to look at for next year. I understand that we got to get this, and we got to do the infrastructure improvements, and we got to come up with funding, but I think it's up to us to look at that in the future. We have new money coming into our community that I brought up a couple of meetings ago. It was brought to our attention that we're going to have about $500,000 coming off of TIF. I would ask that we use that money into the infrastructure improvements for the water. We were told that we want to use that for public safety, and again, I'm a big proponent of public safety. My brother's a police officer in town for 32 years. I think what police and fire do is something that we have to fund as a city, and I'm all for that. I voted for the half-cent sales tax. I voted for the quarter-cent sales tax that we already have for the fire, half-cent sales tax for public safety. One of the things, if you look at this year's budget, last year's budget, we had $1.6 million budgeted for public safety sales tax. This year's budget, we have $2 million. So estimated, we're going to gain $400,000. So if we're going to gain $400,000 this year, how much we're going to gain next year above that 1.6 that was originally in there? And let's look at that money to put towards infrastructure improvements. And the last thing that I would like to talk about is, I call it the fair tax. I hate taxes, first of all, citizens of Belton, and I can't stand taxes. But as an older gentleman who hates the internet, I go down to Home Depot, I go down to Menards, I go into Target, and I pay for taxes as I buy my supplies. I think the fair tax to me is getting something where we are using the internet and using that money and pass a fair tax, what I call the internet or use tax, whatever you want to call it, and apply it towards our infrastructure improvements, instead of always adding on to the water and sewer bill. If you are an older citizen, do not buy anything on the internet, you're the ones that's not being treated right. The people that buy stuff off the internet, and Prime comes down my street 4 times a day to drop off stuff, they're not paying us anything to use those roads. So I guess me moving forward, and I've talked to a lot of constituents in our area already, that I think a lot of people, when I bring it up and says it's not, I call it the fair tax, because a guy like me is already paying a tax. I'm not going to be taxed anymore because I don't buy off the internet. So moving forward, I'd like to see the city move forward with the fair tax, internet use tax, whatever you want to call it, and let's use that to help infrastructure improvements. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman, go ahead.
I have a question for Councilman Clark. Did you say you wanted to take the increase from the half-cent public safety sales tax and put it to infrastructure?
No, I said I want to take the TIF money
Okay.
that we're going to have next year, the $500,000 that's estimated to come in from the TIF, and use that for infrastructure improvements, because they've already increased the half-cent sales tax from 1.6 to $2 million this year.
Okay, I thought you wanted to take.
No.
I thought.
No.
I was going to say that cannot happen.
No. I'm just saying we already increased it $400,000, and Ms. Barton, at our meeting, told Councilman Savage that that money can't be spent 4 ways, and we've already have it assigned to be for public safety, and I just want to use it for other sources.
Councilwoman Davidson, you're being patient.
I should have gone first. I'm not going to be as long, but you know when I get aggravated, I have to write something, so I wrote something. So I have agonized over this issue since Don Tyler's initial presentation at our December work session. I too share your frustration. It's confusing to see all the new development, only to be asked to pay more for services you thought you were already paying for. I've heard it repeated many times. No one wants to pay more. No one wants higher rates. Yet when I think about our little community, and I think about all the improvements we've pulled together to fund over the years, a new water tower, upgrades to our water treatment facility, and most recently among those, an expansion to our high school, our first responder sales tax, Proposition R for road improvements, and Proposition S for stormwater infrastructure improvements, all passed within the last 4 years. People will pay to make improvements. It's just their buy-in we're missing here. Life is busy and messy, and sometimes we get so wrapped up in what's happening at a national level that we miss an opportunity to make an impact where it most closely affects us, right here. Sometimes we don't fully understand the importance of a city council election until those leaders are asked to make decisions regarding issues not on a ballot, like trash service or water rates. So as I sit here tonight, I know 2 things to be true. Number 1, we need to replace our cast iron and asbestos water pipes. Number 2, we cannot accomplish this with our current revenues. We are very fortunate to have Don Tyler, sorry to pick on you, working for our city, and he is highly regarded in current and former city circles. Quote, "He's the best," routinely comes up in my conversations. He made a very thoughtful appeal to us in December, and I trust his judgment. I've been through each page of the budget. Nowhere does it exist the amount of money needed to truly get a jump on this work. Carving out a few $1,000s here or there would be the equivalent of trying to stop a leaking dam with a pushpin. As the city can attest, I've been a constant annoyance over the questions of bonds and anything to put this issue back in the hands of the voters. None were the answers I wanted to hear. I asked the city to put together this table tonight comparing our options, and as you now seen, bonds are more expensive than the proposal already on the table. So now I ask myself, what is the most economical decision? Knowing that no one has approached the city to sell our service, what can we do right now? So I'm in favor of this one-time 10% increase over the next 1 year to be reevaluated at the end of our next budget period. And during that time, I sincerely hope grants become available that can help us mitigate some of this. Thank you.
Next. Councilman Finn?
Thank you. As we heard tonight, this issue has been spoke of for the last 2 decades, and it has been kicked down the road quite a while. And we've seen several examples of what our pipes do look like. And I feel like we continue to put a Band-Aid on this thing. And so it is definitely a hot button for this community because I don't want to pay more taxes. I don't want to pay more for my rates. I like my water to work. I like my sewer to work. They currently both do. Why would I pay more for it? However, when we get this information and it's brought to us and you can see these maps and where the issues are, something is going to have to be done. And when we continue to push this even further, it's going to become more expensive. So I had an opportunity, and I think some of you sitting out there partook in my poll last week on Facebook, because I wanted to hear from you. I really did. And some of you agree with me, and some of you don't, and that's what I love. I love being able to have that conversation with you, and it was an easy format to do so. So I appreciate all the feedback from it. And what I found out was there was more people in my poll that were voting that actually voted in the actual councilman election. And so it surprised me how interested people were in this community. All of a sudden, as this issue was coming up and coming for a vote. and their rates could possibly change. I too believe that there's information that I think needs to be delivered forward. I don't think this community fully understands where we are right now. I think more information could be brought forward to better educate them, and I think that we could do a better part, and I'll take full responsibility on my part to be able to educate my people in my ward on what's going on ahead of time, so it doesn't feel like it's always to the last minute. I don't know if you guys always feel like that, because everything comes down to the last minute. So in my poll, like I said, I think we had 427 votes in that poll, and I had an astounding 339 say, heck no, they do not want to do this. So I asked several questions to the staff, and that's why we have this information here, to do the bonds. It's going to cost us more in the long run to do bonds. Why can't we just raise taxes again and let other people from the community come into this community, or from outside the community come in and pay for these increases? Well, it doesn't work like that. This is a use tax. We can't tax on that. It doesn't work that way. So what other ways are possible for us to be able to improve our infrastructure and keep from putting Band-Aids on our infrastructure for the next 20 years until somebody else is sitting in my seat and trying to figure it out, and we're having crisis after crisis? So after saying that, I was elected to represent the people in my ward, and I'm going to do just that this evening. Do I feel that I'm going to make the decision that I would make personally? It doesn't really matter, because I wasn't elected to give my opinion on what I wanted to do. I was to represent the people in my ward, and so that's what's getting ready to happen.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilwoman Davis?
Yeah, I'll say one more thing. I like Councilman Clark's idea of making sure that those TIF dollars that we are receiving, that we can reinvest in our infrastructure.
Other points? Councilman Savage?
I don't know if there's a whole lot of point left. We have talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
But as far as the term kicking it down the curb, it's okay to use that, but I think that all this has been known. We've been putting forth money toward it at about 400,000, it's best be going there. And I think we've come to the point to realize that it's not getting the job done. We're finally getting to the point that we've got to do more. So I think we have been working a solution, trying to get from here to there for the last several years, and recognizing the fact that it's not there. You made mention, Councilman Clark, that there was 2.4 million overhead allocation, and of course we're looking for any options to pay for this. What are they? Did you go ahead and look and see where that money was being spent? Because I did get into this in 2012.
Well, if you go look at the budget underneath revenues, you'll see the sewer and water allocation, then you see a public works billing allocation, which I have absolutely no clue what that $1 million is. I mean, it's just going in there. I try to go through the budget to see what public works it was paying for, because if you go into water and sewer, you'll see that the bonds are actually being paid by the water bills and the sewer bills, but I could not find anything where the public works billing was funding anything other than the general fund.
Well,
And like I said, I mean, it's been 18 years since I've been, had looked at a budget this big. I mean, Belton Education Foundation budget, Mayor, we got like one page or something like that, so it's very simple. This is very complex, and, I always tell people, when you run for city council that first year, you're kind of lost because you don't know what's going on, but once you go through a budget cycle, the second year gets a little easier, but so.
So I don't recall the exact numbers. At the time, I could tell you real clear, but there was an excise tax probably still there. And I'm going, why? What's this about? And at the end of the day, the fact was that if we depleted the general fund of that, then we could not pay for the things that services we have, the police, fire, and various things that does come out of the general fund. So thereby being, if we depleted that, we'd have to generate a new tax just to make the dollars reach. That's why I asked you the question. the 2.4 that you're speaking of, as long as it may be agreeable or disagreeable of how it's being taken out in the amount, but the point is it being spent properly when it gets to the general fund to pay for the items necessary to operate the city? That's what I found where we were at.
Well, I'm not saying it's not being necessary. I'm just saying that my belief, and it's my belief, there's 9 of us and we're all gonna hopefully come together and make a decision, but my belief is that the water and sewer fund should fund the water and sewer. And I believe that we should fund the people in City Hall or any other department that work on the water and sewer areas. But the way we do it, it's just a general fund allocation. So it could go to police, fire, which really don't work on water and sewer. So, but if Public Works Director, if he works 25% of the time on water, then he'd have 25% of his pay is water. If he's 25% of his time on sewer, then 25% of his pay is on sewer. So I'd like to see it more allocated that way. But right now, based on what I'm seeing, is we've taken $2.4 million out of this year's budget from water and sewer and going into the general fund just for basic allocation.
And what you're gonna find, and I do hope you go ahead and look, but what you're gonna find, if you deplete that out, you're gonna find a absolute need to have to generate to supply the general fund in order to supply the funds necessary to pay the bills that it has to pay. That's what you'll find again, and I wish you would go ahead and check that out, because I haven't in a few years, but I got deep into this when I was trying to find money for this particular reason a few years back, and that's what I found. So it might be wise, at least I would ask you to look a little closer.
That's why I
See
brought
what-
up my what I call the fair tax. I mean, it's one of those that, I don't know what we've had stuff up there before that says if the internet is taking so many billions of dollars out of the revenue streams of cities, and I don't know what that would actually generate for the city of Belton, but I mean, if it's $500,000 a year, then let's use it for the infrastructure improvements and keep the costs down for the citizens. I just think we gotta figure out ways to do this without always just raising rates. That's all I'm asking.
And I think we should always look at those options. That's why I think we look at 1 year at a time here and not be so gung-ho on where we're headed next year, at least for the additional increase. And also, I too would definitely look at what we're going to receive in the next few years as TIF. However, I want to say that we do have places that we're waiting. We got to decide what's the priority on where we want to go with it. So those are decisions that we can certainly make. I know it's been discussed and talked a little, but we can make those decisions year to year if we stay on top of this thing. Do you have any other thoughts, since you did do this math, of how we can get to the side of paying for this and getting started on this water line?
No, I mean, unfortunately, I think you gotta have the tax. The only way to take money, I mean, again, my first year in 18 years going through a budget this thick, so I mean, you know, I'm a rookie again. So the only way to probably to get it started is do the increase this year, but I think we as a council need to look at how we're allocating funds in, you know, if our water lines are as bad as they're saying they are, I mean, that should be our number one priority for the citizens of our community, and taking any excess money we have coming in and making sure it's applied to that is, to me, is where we should start.
Thank you. I appreciate that explanation.
Councilman Trutzel, you're up.
I'm fortunate to live in an area that doesn't need water replacement. However, I feel an obligation to help people in an area that do need replacement. If they were to pay for what is the water line in front of their house, only about $150 to $200 a running foot. You're talking $5,000 to $7,000 for everybody to repair the line in front of their house, or more. I'm not sure that we have an obligation, at least I personally think I have an obligation to help people that couldn't afford to do this. we have an obligation as a city to take care of this. I personally, if I lived in those areas, I would say I need some help. And the help comes in the form of a tax increase, in this case, for the water that is shared among the entire citizens of the Belton. If you just say, well, I tell you what, I don't want to pay for it because I don't live in that area, we'll just pay the area that and charge them. You know, that comes ridiculous real quick like. You know, I really do feel that we have an obligation to help those who can't afford to help them because it's expensive. It's too expensive. So obviously I'm going to support the what's going to be proposed.
Councilman Clark.
I'm going to reiterate that I think we need to replace the water lines. I just want us to look out at alternative funding in the future is all I'm saying. We've been talking about this, I said 20 years ago, I talked about this when I sat up here the first time. So it's just something that needs to be done, and we just got to find a revenue source to pay for it other than raising rates.
Councilwoman Davidson, were you going to say something about the front yard?
It was a hell of a lot more than $7,000.
I thought you were going to say.
Could you repeat that again?
And that's a tragedy, and we all face that. Another question. Councilman Lathrop first, then Councilman Van Winkle.
I'm gonna let him go, I'm ready to talk.
Okay, it's going around tonight. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, concur with Councilman Clark that I think if we have those kind of windfalls coming from the TIF, then we should add that in for infrastructure. I wanted to clarify something with Sheila. Did I understand you say that we would be in line to bring in approximately a $500,000 with this increase for the year?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm looking at over $27 million in need just in those two types of pipe, the worst kind, the asbestos and the cast iron. So that's just for the 1 year.
Yes, the thought was that to try to get up to $1.36 million a year by year 5.
Okay. I guess unfortunately, that almost seems like a drop in the bucket when you're looking at 27 million, but you have to start somewhere, and hopefully the grants will come through and we can, add into what we can repair. Also concur with Councilman Clark on the use tax. I've said that, many times up here that commerce is happening in very different ways with technology, and we're going to be behind the 8 ball very quick if we're not already in the monies that we're going to be losing that typically would have been here for us to spend on any and all of our expenses. So I'm also in a position very similar to Councilman Finn on this. It'd be real easy to go, well, we're not going to raise anybody's rates, and I could go home and feel good about myself, and nobody'd be mad at me, and that's unfortunately not where we're at. These water pipes have to be fixed, and I'm going to have to support it. Wish we weren't in that position, but this is reality, and this is what we're going to have to do. I appreciate our staff putting together this information for us, looking ahead. People that want to point fingers at our staff and so forth in derogatory ways, I'd encourage you to understand that, they could have went with this 1 year increase and not mentioned that they're going to be back in another year and 2 years and 3 years, but they were up front with us and said this is the long range plan. This isn't something that we're kicking down the road and we're just going to put a Band-Aid on it for 1 year rate increase. They were up front with all of us right from the beginning that they're trying to spread this out over the 5 years and do what needs to be done. Thank you.
Councilman Lathrop.
Pardon me. Well, I had a couple of things that we wasn't sure about, and they've been discussed here a lot. The only thing that I had in mind was the 10% still going, not that I'm in favor of it, but at 10%, instead of charging it 10% on each water, to protect 10% of the income and charge that amount to each customer. That way, the ones that are in trouble using a lot of water and can't afford it, they're still paying the same amount for the main line. That was one of the things I had, and I don't like doing it anymore, but we've got to have some money. There was a couple other sources that we could check into, but who knows, that might have been 100,000 or $500,000, but you know, that's not gonna get us very much pipe. And the 10% for 1 year, either way you do it, I just like if we divide it evenly with the meters and everybody pays the same, then Mr. Clark could help them out.
Councilwoman Peak?
I'll be last here.
Maybe.
Maybe. Oh, that's right, you haven't spoken yet. I'm no different from any of the other council people that are sitting up here agonizing over what to do. And it's a tough decision, but when you look at what has to be done for the citizens in areas around our city, we have to make the hard decision as to what's best for our city. We have infrastructure that is 80, 90 years old. It has to, I mean, it's definitely breaking. We have to do something to try to correct it. And I'm not happy with the rate increase, just like everybody else, but I'm happy to pay it if it's going to help the citizens in the areas that definitely need all the repairs that are happening. I believe, how many sinkholes did we have last year? 17? Was that?
Yeah, and counting.
And how many have we had so far this year? About 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Aren't we voting on one or?
We can't keep making repairs like that. It's not working. So I will support the increase.
Any other comments, questions? Ready for the roll call?
Mayor Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Trutzel,
Aye.
Peak,
Aye.
Savage,
Aye.
Lathrop,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Van Winkle,
Aye.
Finn,
No.
Clark.
No.
Motion passes. Okay. B, a motion approving the final reading of Bill number 2020-09.
An ordinance approving the proposed fiscal year 2021 city budget as revised and appropriating funds from the revenue of the city.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Councilman Clark.
Mayor, I'd like to make another statement. It's not written this time, by the way, so it won't be hopefully as long, but 5 minutes. One of the things I just want to say, I mean, I've had some people ask me why I voted yes for the budget 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to tell you, the budget is more than water and sewer increases. The budget talks about salaries increases. It talks about our employees getting a bump in grade. It talks about some of the other projects we're going to do. So to me, looking at the budget and just looking at water and sewer, because I'm not actually against the infrastructure improvements, and I want us to move forward with that. My whole thing is I want us to fund it in a different manner, that hopefully next year we come to that conclusion. But I think we need to look at the budget as a whole. I mean, some people are upset because we're putting $50,000 in the budget for police chief search. You know what? We might not ever use that. We have budgets all the time that are modified. This thing's a working document. This document changes every month because the income comes in, changes every month. We've changed our budget this year. I don't know how many times that we've made an amendment to our budget. So please, as a citizen, let's have a civil discourse on the budget. Let's look at it. I mean, just because it's in the budget doesn't mean we're going to use it. But if we need to use it, it's allocated. If we don't use it, then that money's going to roll over to another project for next year. So as someone that's, again, new to the budget, let's look at it as a working document and not something that because you're upset about one or two little items in that budget that the whole thing is garbage. So that's my comment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Councilwoman Davidson.
I just wanted to see if there was clarification available. There were some questions last week about, I didn't have a question about this, but the $50,000 that was allocated for the nationwide search, if he wanted to talk about that again, and then also the potential for overlapping salaries of two chiefs, if we wanted to expand on that.
I think Chief wants to talk about that.
I can talk about it and turn it over to Alexa. I've been part of several selection processes over the years in cities all around the state of Missouri. I recently completed a selection process. Some of you know I'm the chair of the State 911 Oversight Board. We just went through a similar process with a search company to select an executive director for the State 911 Board. I have some idea of what it will cost to go through that particular project. When we were going through the election in the fall of 18, one of the things that we heard over and over again was that we wanted to make sure that we got the best candidates possible, that we wanted to look outside of the local area. We felt that it had been detrimental over the years to have had an elected chief and relied on candidates that came from Belton. Hearing that, my suggestion then, my request is that the city employ a firm that specializes in executive searches like that. I know that it cost about $26,000 to hire the company that did this latest search for the executive director. On top of the dollars just paid for that, I requested additional dollars. I don't know if that will come in at $10,000. I don't know if that contract would come in at $40,000, but I do know that besides what it would cost to hire the consulting firm, the city would then be expected to fund any extra expenses in the form of advertising, printing, any other contacts that are made, any travel expenses that would be incurred by candidates that would come here to interview, video conferencing, any of these other things would also be added into that. So my request for that process was $50,000. I also requested that there be, and knowing that that would be an extended timeline. If this is approved and the budget goes into effect April 1, I don't believe that you would even have an RFP done and a company hired to do that search until probably June. Then they're going to meet with city staff in order to come up with selection criteria, the process, how it's going to be followed. That's probably going to be another 30 days before they get to a point where they're even ready to advertise the position. That position is going to stay open for another 30, 60, 90 days, and at the end of that time, they're going to bring a list of candidates to the city. They're going to narrow that list down. You're going to have finalists that are going to be interviewed. That whole process, even to get to the point where someone is selected, is probably another 60 days at a minimum that's going to take to get done. My original proposal was that we try to have a chief identified, ready to be announced, that the council can give final approval to the city manager's selection. Sometime late November, early December, the announcement could be made. That person could give proper notification to their current employer, and they would be ready to come on board sometime in January. That way they would be working with city administration and the city council through the budget process. I've also been informed that there are going to be other retirements in the administration of the police department. I don't think it would be appropriate to leave this person cold, knowing
have them come on 1st of April and know that they've got to replace their command staff, they've got to replace administrative staff, and they're looking at a brand-new budget that they've never seen before. I think it would be much more appropriate to have a smooth transition period, bring them on sometime January, February, have them work into the 1st of April when I'm gone. A lot of people are gonna applaud that, but when I'm gone and when that command staff is gone, so goes the knowledge and history of what's gone on in budgets past, what's gone on in how some of the ordinance have been passed, what's gone on with enforcement practices in the past. So I believe no, I'm not gonna continue to run the police department. When someone else is appointed, when they come on board, strictly, it's gonna be their department. I will be around for a consultant. I had no intention of ever spending $170,000 to have somebody come on April of 20 and work until I retire April of 21. That was never my thought, that was never my plan, that was never my recommendation.
Thank you.
You're up.
Thank you, Chief. And this would just be the highlights of what Chief Person has stated. The salary range for this position is $96,000 to $146,000. The amount that we put into this budget is about the same dollar amount that Chief Person is currently making. And want to let everybody know that any unused dollars would remain in that fund, would remain in the general fund. This allows us more time for the learning curve for the new candidate to come in, understand the learning curve of the city, department, operations, and prepare for staff replacement that Chief Person has alluded to, that we know that we're going to have additional staff that are going to be retiring at about the same time as he is. And this would allow them to come in, get established, and be able to have a better transition for the city of Belton, and not have be down multiple positions in administration due to a late process.
Any other questions? Any points to be made there?
You have a motion.
Okay, we're ready.
Councilmember Van Winkle,
Aye.
Pretzel,
Aye.
Mayor Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Savage,
Aye.
Lathrop,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Finn,
Aye.
Peak.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, C. Motion approving the first reading bill number 2020-13.
An ordinance authorizing the taxable industrial revenue bonds North Point Southview Industrial Building 2 LLC project, Series 2020, related to an industrial development project in the city, and authorizing the city to enter into certain agreements and take certain other actions.
Present.
Somebody go again, second?
I did. It went there also.
I could read your body language. Okay. Motion and second, discussion.
Need an explanation here a little bit.
Yeah, Sid, I'm going to ask you to come forward and talk about this motion this evening.
Good evening, Sid Douglas with Gilmore and Bell, bond counsel to the city. This authorization relates to the second building in the phase of the Southview Industrial Complex that's being built. They've completed the first building, it's about 450,000 square feet. They're ready to proceed with their second building. It's going to be approximately 575,000 square feet. So it's about another 25% more than the buildings you see there. So you're going to see a pretty large building going up out there, which is going to be exciting. As part of the original plan that was approved back in June of 2018, we provided some tax abatement and other incentives to proceed for each of the developments that occurred. This is just the second phase of replicating what was done for the very first building. So It'll provide tax abatement for 20 years in accordance with some pilot payments they're supposed to be making. It's consistent with the overall plan, it's consistent with what was approved for the first building. Be happy to answer any questions.
Seeing none. Thank you. And with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Resolutions, do we have any? City Council liaison reports, we have Councilwoman Davidson from the park.
It's a lot, so.
Seriously. I got my legs killing me. I gotta go.
Oh, okay, so just a little housekeeping. We know that there are currently no confirmed cases of this must have been a day late, but no confirmed cases of coronavirus in Missouri, I should say in Kansas City. And the risk of infection for the general public is low, but we thought it was a good idea, or a good time to remind our members of ways that we can all reduce the risk at High Blue Wellness Center. So what they're doing, they're sanitizing the kids' corner daily. They're increasing efforts to clean and disinfect hard surfaces during including fitness equipment, door handles, countertops, tables, etc. They're also disinfecting yoga mats and group fitness equipment. What you can do while you're visiting High Blue is to remember to cover your mouth with your flexed arm or tissue, wash hands frequently, use gym wipes to wipe down equipment, and avoid High Blue Wellness Center if you're experiencing flu-like symptoms. Planning a staycation for spring break. Sign up for our Spring Fling swim lessons. This is a 4-day course and is a great way to have some fun and hone your swimming skills. It's only $30 for the season. You can sign up on Team Sideline now. Registrations are accepted through March 11th, which is tomorrow. Classes are subject to cancellation due to low enrollment. Spring is around the corner, and so is tank tops and shorts. Time to get your fitness on. Join High Blue Wellness, small group or personal training in the month of March and get 2 free guest passes for you and your friends, a limit 2 per household. Let's play ball next Saturday. Well, this Saturday, March 14th, it's our next kids' night out from 5:30 to 10 p.m. at High Blue Wellness Center. Are you signed up? There will be baseball-themed activities, swimming, pizza, a movie, and more. Kids' Night Out is for kids 5 to 12 years old. If registered by this Friday, the cost is $20 for the first family member and $15 for each additional family member. Cost at the door is $25 for the first family member and $20 for each additional. We hope to see you there. Recreation baseball and softball season is just around the corner, and that means registration is underway for kids in pre-K through 8th grade. We'd love to have you join us this spring. Regular registration ends on Sunday, March 29th. And watch for upcoming details on Tiny Tots T-Ball for kids ages, they start them at 3 to 5 years old. Wow. Registration opens on Sunday, March 29th. You can visit teamsideline.com/Belton for more information or register online. And then our Parks Department is also accepting applications for part-time field crew to help keep our baseball fields in great condition when it comes to game time. Qualified applicants must be available for afternoon, evening hours, as well as weekends. You can apply on beltonparks.org/jobs or at the High Blue Wellness Center. They are also hiring for concessions and recreation assistants for the spring leagues as well. Kids 10 and younger, come out to our free annual Easter egg hunt. That's Saturday, April 4th at 10 a.m. It's sponsored by Hy-Vee and Academy Sports and Outdoors. We'll have games and fun inside Memorial Station at 10 a.m., followed by egg hunting on the ball fields at 11 a.m. If you want to volunteer or have questions, you can contact Melissa Ferrari at beltonparks.org. It's mferrari@beltonparks.org. And then there's also a mom prom coming up on Friday, April 17th, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. You can grab your old prom dress. I don't know if I want to do that. I think a new one would be better, but grab your old prom dress and come dance the night away at this ladies' night out event, 21 and older. You do not have to be a mom to attend, and admission is $20. And then just a reminder that Hy-Vee Summerfest is coming up, and that's Saturday, June 13th, from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. out at Memorial Station. That's it.
Thank you. I was going to ask you about the Sloan Tribby.
I helped them add a little bit of money, there's council members.
Yeah, you ran up my bid.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I was enjoying all that. It was a lot of fun. So, what I'm really after is, how much did we make? Are you privy of, go ahead.
I got a thank you card in the mail yesterday. It said $20,000. Is that, yep. Pretty good.
Outstanding. It was an outstanding event. I'm really proud that we've got that rolling really well. The park did a great job, staff. It was a lot of fun. Mayor's communication, we've got coronavirus. You want to go, Chief? We've been in a lot of meetings that we kept meeting about coronavirus. We were at the research hospital, and what was that lady's name? Did just an outstanding job. And then the governor twice.
Lady's name.
So go ahead.
Maggie. I don't know.
She did. She was outstanding. She really was.
There have been a number of meetings and teleconferences that city staff has participated in over the last couple of weeks involving coronavirus or COVID-19. As a matter of fact, this afternoon, Chief Sapp and I assume the mayor was on a phone somewhere else. There was a teleconference with the state of Missouri. The governor led the conference, had the DPS director, the SEMA director, and the health department director all together there. They gave us an update of what's going on at the state level, also the national level, and assured that there would be assistance available, but that this would actually, in all probability, be handled by local authorities with assistance from the state. There has been one case that has been verified in the St. Louis area. There's been one case that we're all aware of in Kansas so far. There's no reason to believe that those will be the only two cases that'll happen. I also worked today on a document that will be a policy for the city and emergency services. Chief Sapp is reviewing that. We should have that ready in just a few days. That'll outline for the city and our own staff what to anticipate and how to move forward as we look at possible coronavirus cases impacting our own region. So that's where we are right now. I believe that it will impact us not only from a health standpoint, but from a social standpoint and from an environmental standpoint, as well as a physical standpoint. So that's where we are right now. We encourage everyone to do just like Councilman Davidson talked about. Make sure that you're living in a healthy manner right now, that you're doing everything that you can not to spread any virus. If you do feel ill, stay home. If you cough or sneeze, cover yourself. Make sure that you can use hand sanitizer or some type of disinfectant at home and at work where appropriate. I will tell you that at the police department, we have inventoried our personal protection equipment. We're making sure that we have enough of that in place. We have sanitized the jail and will continue to disinfect the jail and areas of the police station on a daily basis. And I know that Chief Sapp is doing the same at his facilities and with his personnel. John,
Chief Sapp,
anything
you got
wanna-
something?
No, not much to add to that. Our staff is, I mean, they're already asked to take a look and handle infectious things all the time, influenza and things like that. So really the word is vigilant right now, is just to make sure that we're following our policies. We're cleaning our equipment, cleaning our trucks, washing our hands, screening patients. We're going to work on some pre-screening through dispatch and then through our system, just to start asking some questions and maybe limit the personnel so that we're limiting our exposures, because that's where I see our biggest potential problem is if we start getting a number of our people exposed to somebody that turns out to be positive. It doesn't take long to run low on staff if you have to pull them from your response matrix. So that's kind of where we're at with it right now.
Thank you, Chiefs, both. Thank you very much. Next for me, St. Patrick's Parade is this Saturday. And 4 o'clock lineup out to the park. Anybody can get into that. And it's a big tradition in Belton. And wow, so time and line up and get ready to go. Did you need to say anything else to add on to anybody? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we have put information out on Facebook, but we would also ask that people voluntarily clear the street on Main Street late afternoon so that the parade can go down without cars being parked on the street there.
Oh, golly, yeah. And I'm worried to death on the kids. I can't throw candy as far as I used to. And,
I will also check those times. I thought that the lineup was 5 and the parade 6, but I could be absolutely wrong. It's 4 and 5?
4 and 5.
Okay.
Good question, though. Okay, March 12th through the 20th is the census, the beginning of, you're going to get in the mail through the 12th and the 20th, and so we'll be having that in the mail to respond. We want to encourage everybody to do that. This can affect, how does that affect us, City Manager? How do we benefit from doing that census?
Census data that comes back to the government is used to look at the demographics that our community has and can assist us in future funding and through grant programs and through the state for other related type expenses that we get reimbursed for. So citizens will be receiving a flyer in the mail anywhere between the 12th and the 20th, and so we encourage everyone to please complete those and return those.
I've had a lot of concern from people, school district, about the housing.
City census.
Go
Federal
ahead.
government census.
Go ahead.
Question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Is it the city census or is it the census that,
No,
It's the decennial census
Okay.
for the country.
thank you, because that wasn't real clear to me.
Okay, permits for housing. And I asked staff today, we have 30 permits right now for single-family homes in Tradition, Emerson Park, and Meadow Creek. We have 18 permits recently issued for 4 new unit townhomes and Traditions totaling 72 new units. Pending right now, I know you have a DRC coming up on application for 147 new lots in Autumn Ridge on the west side of Mullen at Sycamore. And that's 90 new age-restricted 55 and older apartments units at Traditions. We have a lot of houses coming into Belton, just so everybody knows that. Rotary, next, what's that date? That's Saturday, March 28th, Oil Creek. They do the cleanup twice a year, the buy of Oil Creek, and where else do we consider that to be? So we're gonna meet at south of the soccer fields, and I'm trying to think of all the different things that with the Rotary, it's been a great event. Go ahead.
Right, yeah, the city, this is actually the annual City of Belton cleanup. We do 2 a year. We do spring and fall. This will be the spring cleanup. The week before, March 21st, is the Raymore cleanup. They work with the Grand River Watershed Alliance because Oil Creek eventually feeds into the Grand River. And so Rotary has been a real proponent of coming and helping and kicking off our annual stream cleanups. And as they've adopted a stream that's over across the street from Menards and that area that feeds, that's through the Marquee Parkway detention area. And so they've adopted that area and they clean that twice a year. But this is for all citizens of Belton to come out and help clean up all of our streams. As the mayor said, we will meet there just south of High Blue and the soccer fields. And people will disperse from there. So Rotary will go to their section, but many people at this event go north and clean all up through the Oil Creek area through there. So it's a great time. We meet at 8:30 in the morning. It goes to about 11. And last year we had almost 500 pounds of trash. So we're looking forward to keeping our streams clean.
Super. Today we had a chamber event over at in Raymore and at Creekmore. And it was outstanding. Bob Houston gave another State of the Union in a different capacity, and it was well received. But at this time, I see Diane Huckshorn in the chamber put it on. Why don't you come up real quick and tell me and tell us I know I'm giving you a little time to get up here because, you know, you're tired. Okay, I want to say the Night of Royals, that we were talking about that today at the event. And as we're doing that we had a group come. Can you explain who came and sang today at the chamber event and all that kind of
I'd be
stuff?
happy to. Thank you, Mayor. So the Mill Creek Upper Elementary Choir came and performed the national anthem for us today. They did an absolutely amazing job. Everyone loved it. I did post the video of that on our Facebook page if you'd like to go out there and check that out. The City of Belton, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Belton School District will be hosting our second annual Belton Night at the K, and it will be on Monday night, May the 18th, and we are playing the LA Angels.
Yeah.
I knew it was LA, couldn't remember. And it is a chamber fundraiser, but it's a fantastic community event, and we appreciate the help from the city and the school district. We're looking forward to another good time at the ballpark.
And the kids will get to sing?
The kids are going to be singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" during the 7th inning stretch.
Well, that'll be outstanding. Thank you very much. Did you have anything else?
Golf tournament, coffees. We're going to be moving across the street. I just came from there with our new landlord, and things are moving along very quickly on that event space and on our office.
When's your golf tournament and where?
May the 11th, and we're at Creekmore. Or,
And-
I'm sorry, we're at Loch Lloyd.
Chief, the DARE is when? Or Councilman Clark, you remember that one?
It's usually
the first
first Friday in
First Friday, first Thursday in June.
Thursday.
Okay, we'll be
I
looking
think
for
it's
that
June
one.
11th.
June 11th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And it is with the Angels, by the way.
It was the Angels, you looked that one up. Okay, city manager's report.
Yes, I wanted to let the council know that the City of Belton and the City of Raymore and Cass County have been working on a regional project together. They have approached, as has the City of Belton, to on two different projects in order to try to receive some grant funding. The first one would be to widen I-49 to 3 lanes, and then a second project out that would go out a couple more years would be looking at widening the 58 Highway Bridge. The City of Raymore has actually already gone through a competitive bid process in order to hire an engineering firm. The engineering firm is HDR. HDR is also the same firm that the City of Belton hired to do the realignment of Peculiar Drive and to help do the design work for the 58 highway improvements. And so, but when those proposals came back, they were a lot higher than what Raymore had expected. The mayor, myself, Greg, and many other members of our team attended a meeting at the City of Raymore. Was that just yesterday?
Yes.
And basically, the estimated cost on that project is going to be about $180,000. And they've asked the City of Belton and Cass County to share that 3 ways. We are looking at that project. We're working on an intergovernmental agreement between the 3 organizations, and we will be bringing that back to the council on Tuesday, March 24th for approval. And because of the tight time frame for the build grant application with the state of Missouri, we will be asking the council for a double read that evening. So as soon as we have additional information, I will try to share that with you. But right now, we are waiting for information as to all the information from the City of Raymore, and I just wanted to let you know that we've had favorable comments from the state and to be able to help with that project, and so we're real excited about that.
We're kind of blessed to have Greg at this time on our staff. Do you want to give some insight to that?
Sure. Greg Rokos, as everyone knows, is our new Public Works Director, and much to our happiness, Greg worked on this project to begin with when he was previously with the City of Raymore. So he brings a lot of that institutional knowledge and project institutional knowledge with him. And Greg, any other items to add about that project?
Well, just to be clear, it's the build grant is a federal grant that we're going
Okay, perfect.
after.
Thanks.
And it's highly competitive. Only about 5 to 6% of people who apply to it get it. And so it's going to take a lot of work on our end to get prepared and to make the best pitch that we can to the federal government to get the money.
Councilman Van Winkle, you had a question?
Yeah, you said 180,000. is that for both projects or just the first one?
Just for the first one.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Do you have anything else this evening?
No, that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I'm looking at other business. Councilman Trutzel.
We had a presentation a week or two ago about a regional fire district. And I think, we might want to just discuss that on an not executive session, but regular session. A couple of things I had concerned about, or not concerned, but interested in, is they suggested that maybe we might look at a call center for Kansas City as a 911. I'd like to know what that would look like and what the response time would be. Put a lot of work to you. Another one is concern to me would be, we have these large buildings out here that we're going to have to use aerial fire in case of a fire. So our mutual aid is going to come into place there, but we may have to have more than 2 or 3 aerials to fight a fire on a large building like we're talking about out here. And I know that I know you have mutual aid, but I know there might be a coordination here of when you call and how you call, and then who's in charge on that type of distribution. And then the other thing that came up was a discussion of not aerial, but the auction tanks, whether they're coordinated with other fire departments, those kind of things. I just had a bunch of questions that we might want to look at. And obviously, it's nothing really quick to do that kind of research, but there are several things there, especially that I'm really concerned about the aerial and the safety of the people inside the buildings, their locations, those kind of things, and how we would deal with that if a fire in the roof because of that situation.
Well, I can address some, and if you have, if there's more specific things, we can dig into that later. To stick just with North Point for now, those are very large buildings, but they're also very well pre-designed ahead of time with fire safety in mind. Sprinkler systems, how they divide the buildings up and things like that, which most of them, since they're warehouse, are pretty wide open. So our current mutual aid, obviously our ladder truck would go to every one of those. Grandview, through our automatic aid with them, has just relocated their ladder truck, so it's first in. We end up with 2 ladder trucks on every call right now anyway, whether it's residential or commercial. And then third in would be Raymore. So we do take into consideration the kind of building that we're going to, and obviously we're going to be very interested in the kind of things they store in there, and that goes into our pre-plans, which would alter what may be outside of the normal. Kansas City Dispatch, I guess I would like more specifics from you. I currently don't think that that's a good option. I think what we have works very well, and don't think that it would give us a good improvement over what we do currently.
It was just mentioned in that report that came out the other day, I couldn't quite figure out exactly, what the response time would be for a 911 from Kansas City. He was talking about a response time is what he was looking at.
Yeah, I think the system we have currently works well, but I could definitely, like say, we can, if we want to dig into that a little more, we could later. Air tanks, I'm not sure where that question.
They came up with, do we have the same type of units as to both the other fire
There are
departments?
various kinds of equipment that everybody has, and all are a little bit different, but when it comes to, they can wear their own stuff when they go in. If it comes to an emergency situation where we have a firefighter down, everybody carries what we call a RIT pack, and so all of those would have a universal fitting on them that would fit to any brand whatsoever. Could there be some benefit in similar equipment? Yes. I think more of his point was it's more of that power in numbers when you're buying, so in purchasing sometimes it drives it down, but I think with the way that the state bids and things come in like that, that's pretty powerful buying. There's a lot there that brings the price down about as low as you can find.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, any other business?
Just for a second, I would also like to address the dispatch issue in the Kansas City Dispatch. I will tell you that consultant at no time came to talk to me about dispatch, and I am the PSAP manager for the city of Belton. I would think it would be appropriate if they were going to make an informed decision that they would talk to us about our dispatching. Chief Sapp and I actually had a conversation today about dispatching. what would have to happen for there to be dispatching located someplace other than what we already have would be that the city would have to contract for dispatching services and pay additional funds for a service that's already being provided here in the city. And so, dispatch times probably would not, response times probably wouldn't change a whole lot because technology can push a call out to wherever it would need to go. The difference would be if someone else was dispatching the 911 call, because law enforcement is always identified as primary because we have more calls for service. A 911 call would be answered in Belton. If it was identified by the Belton dispatcher as a fire call, it would be transferred to Kansas City Fire Dispatch, who would then dispatch Belton fire apparatus. So there would be an extra step in there. There would be some additional time, but in all probability, it wouldn't be a long time. But any time that calls are transferred, there's a chance for something to happen.
Thank you.
Okay, I think it's Mayor Pro Tem Peak's turn to come up, and why don't you do a little spill first before you come up?
Well, actually, I have a couple of volunteers
Okay.
who are going to hold the banner, and I'm going to talk
Will you?
a little bit about You Matter Belton. The mission of You Matter Belton is committed to bringing our community together to connect with and remind our youth of their importance and that they do matter. You Matter Belton wants to spread messages of positivity and work to drown out the negativity that our youth are faced with each day. The youth in our city will see our symbol on shirts, which you can see our You Matter logo on the banner. I lost my place. On shirts at schools around town so they can see the number of people who believe in our message that you matter. We have a couple of these banners that made their debut at the Belton Cares Trivia Night recently. Since then, the banner has been at Cambridge School, at businesses on Main Street, as well as some other locations, and will be traveling around our city. In just a short period of time, our community has embraced our efforts and have been happy to support this cause and happy to hold the banner and have their picture taken. For more information, or to purchase a T-shirt, please visit the You Matter Belton Facebook page. Tonight, the banner will be held, and the council will have our picture taken holding the banner. That is our mission statement, and I think there's probably a couple of pictures that were taken, that have been taken around. That was taken at Trivia Night. They're not real, I got them from the Facebook page. And then a couple of the businesses on Main Street had their employees held it up. I don't see Sheila Sullivan here, but Tara's, it was at Tara's, and I don't know if I have that picture. But we're trying to spread the word.
Where he lives? He lives in Rob Elkino.
Does he? Yes. So I will be, as I said, the council is going to have a chance to have the picture taken this evening.
We're gonna get a picture.
And I will be taking it around to, I will be going to the fire departments, fire stations, police stations. I'm gonna, if it hasn't been to the park, I'm gonna have it up at the park. Some of you may be seeing me around here to bring the banner, and hopefully your staff and visitors that are there or whatever will be happy to hold up the banner.
Councilwoman Peak, Mayor Pro Tem, will you come and get behind in the middle, and council, get around here, and let's get a picture behind here. We'll be behind you guys. So let's push our chairs back, and everybody get in here. And we'll put the big uns in the back. That means me.
Biggins?
That's why we always say to push this back. You guys, Stephanie, get in front. Dean and Chet, you gotta get in there closer.
Get it closer.
Come on in. I get my picture all the time. Oh.
So good.
Are we smiling or being like, what are we doing here?
Smile.
Camera's going back. Who do you look at?
Let me see if I get everybody's faces. Nope, not so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if I have.
Come back, Patrick. Thanks, Councilwoman. Mayor Pro Tem, sorry. Okay. Motion to enter executive session,
Mr. Mayor?
discuss matters pertaining to leasing, purchase, or?
Real quick,
Okay.
I just wanted to announce that the Cass Community Health Foundation 5K for Health, the annual 5K, that I know all of you like to participate in, will be May the 2nd. It'll be following the same route that it has for the last 26 years. It's going to leave the hospital, go down Mullen, through the neighborhood, and then back again. So you don't have to actually walk. You can cyber walk if you want. If you go to the Cass Community, there you go. If you go to the Cass Community Health Foundation website, you can register and sign up there. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Again, motion to enter executive session, discuss matters pertaining to the legal or leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate according to Missouri State Statute 610-0212, and to discuss matters pertaining to negotiated contracts according to Missouri State Statute 610-0212, and the record be closed.
So
And the
moved.
meeting
Second.
adjourned from there. Motion and a second. That would Councilman Savage and Councilman Lathrop. Any discussion? Roll
it's a roll
call,
call.
please.
Councilmember Clark,
Aye.
Peak,
Aye.
Mayor Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Savage,
Aye.
Lathrop,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Trutzel,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Van
We're adjourned and thank you.